Welcome to Weekend Walkabout, where we're in our gardens and yours virtually.
We're coming to you from gardenatozz.org. I'm Stephen Nicola.
And I'm Janet McConovich. And today our topic is color cures for the August blahs. We do, however, work in 3 segments, and we're going to get to our August blahs shortly. It did rain on us last night again. And Stephen thinks that makes for great pictures when everything is moist.
Yep.
We've been writing about gardening for a long time and learning about gardening from other people who respond to us. And by going in and out of people's gardens, we think that is the best way to learn about gardening. And you're helping us and helping other people do it by chatting, by sending in questions, by sending in answers,
being here,
by being in. And that's why we have the website and why we started doing this. Our daughter, Sonia Nicola, is here. Yay.
Here.
Yes, and she's here. She's here.
Bye.
Sonia is a professor at University of Toronto, so she's well versed in all of this Zoom stuff, and also just a very wonderful gardener and organizer.
Communicator.
She'll take care of putting the questions in line so that we know what we need to do when we get to the question and answer sessions. And Cheryl and Pierre Bennerup are joining us today. They're very good friends of ours. Cheryl, we met when she was still a Michigan gardener. She started gardening professionally when she was 18. It might have been 17, and she bought a stand and started selling plants. Then she bought a house with a greenhouse and began Cheryl's Gardens, then moved up to one of the largest nurseries in the world, Pierre Bennerup at Sunny Border Nurseries, with, what did he say, 100 million plants they produced in his 100 million plants in his time there. We'll talk more about them later. They're here to talk about perennials, and we'll get out of the way our warm-up session in our garden, our department called In Our Garden, for the 1st of August. We try to have fun. This is the time where you're supposed to be able to go out and say, what can I do?
If you've done everything we've talked about, maintaining your weeding, your pruning, your IPM and everything, you're supposed to get a little bit of time off before the fall rush. This is it.
Yeah, this is it. This is the time, the beginning of August, not the end of August, the beginning of August. So find things to do. I have pretty much the weeds under control. Steve cannot weed in our gardens because of this, because we have so much poison ivy in the neighborhood that seedlings, this is the seedling poison ivy, are coming up all over, and it is real easy to overlook those guys. So the work that we have to do is little work, but it's important work, and we get it out of the way quickly. We've been playing with a squash vine, not a pumpkin vine this year. We had pumpkin vine before, but we started a squash vine, a Hubbard squash on the other side of that little con-colored fir there. And it's coming around the way here.
It creeped around it.
And the neighbor wanted that squash there, but I don't want squash to kill the neighbor's grass. So we said, why don't we let it grow out on the pavement?
So we tried it on the pavement, and it got too, you could tell it was too hot.
Yeah, so we put a spacer underneath the between the pavement and the canvas, and things are growing quite well there. That particular squash quadrupled in size in 5 days. It is now 3 times as big as what you're looking at right there. And we've now extended, we have another piece of canvas out. And
that's a second piece of canvas. That's not the first.
Yeah, the first piece of canvas is totally covered now. And we've got a ladder underneath this piece of canvas to keep it off of the heat. It doesn't like the shadier, drier stuff back here, but we still got 2 squashes going back there, one hanging in this support, and a couple out here. And all of the squashes now, we're losing a couple. That's typical, not enough pollination. So
we lost some of the ones that were hanging.
Yeah.
It almost appeared like the moisture ran down and rotted at the bottom.
But all of our all 5 of the good sized ones like this, we are now sitting where they are sitting, each of them in a mask. The grandkids were, especially Axel, he said, hey, I said, you'll get them back by Halloween. But what we did is put a mask on the ground, put put the squash on the mask. So ideally, as it grows, it will press itself into that face, and maybe we'll have a face on each squash.
Because we're anticipating it's almost impossible to
carve this guy.
Yeah,
Hubbard squash is not going to be easy to carve. And we're having fun with things like, there we go. The neighbor had this growing in the yard. She said, I thought it was a hibiscus or something. I said, no, that's called velvet leaf. It's a weed of agricultural fields. And guess what? It's got,
Well, it doesn't have squash.
it's got flowers. And I've not gotten a picture of the flowers before, so we got a picture of the flowers. But yeah, those big weeds do tend to get in the way and people and make you think that there's something other than what they
But
are.
if you like its structure, if you like its look, it's not a weed.
Yeah. Although they do spread themselves
Yes,
around
well.
like a lot of seeds. So, okay, what kind of questions do we have? And we'll let Cheryl and Pierre warm up with us here before we move on into the main portion of the webinar.
Yeah, we don't have anything specifically about cool squashes. We do have a potentially unanswerable question from Joan about what to do with rabbits, what to do about rabbits eating everything. I said, fence the babies and cross your fingers.
Ironically, we have a rabbit episode at the, if there's time, at the end of the webinar, because you need to be a tough person. You have to kill, exclude, starve rabbits, and
If you don't want them.
right, gardeners have a hard time doing that. And having watched rabbits, we know they can climb. They'll climb over short fences if they're hungry enough. They don't like to do that because they don't like to find themselves stuck in a place that they can't get out of real easily. But and you need to fence off gardens. You need to look and see where they're coming and where they're sitting and hiding underneath a nice protective shrub and coming out and eating stuff close to that shrub, and you need to put a barrier between them. And I mean, you have to be really smart, and you've got to be on it all the time because they're out there 24/7. You're right, potentially unanswerable.
Yeah. And then also Linda had a hand up while we were in pre-session, and I said that I would get her question in. So Linda, if you want to go ahead and ask now, you're welcome to. Anyone? Linda?
Okay.
Go ahead and unmute. Nope. Okay. All right. Then next we have some questions about trees. Squeak says, I saw a small spruce tree I'd like to buy, but its top is damaged. Should I avoid buying it? It looks healthy otherwise. And any recommendations on yellow colored juniper plants that are low spreaders?
Well, the juniper low spreader, mother load.
Mother load is wonderful.
And
So is
there's another one
all
too.
gold. Juniper
Yes.
is conferred to all gold. Hard to find, but a really nice gold.
Mother load
juniper.
stays quite
Very, very
low,
low.
and there's other yellows that get a little bit higher, but mother
Yes.
load is a nice.
And I always mix up whether it's C spray or C. Right? Yeah.
Golden Coast. Or something. I don't know.
Yeah. As I get taller, I have to start looking them up because there's one called Gold Coast and one called Gold. I have to look them up, but for very low to the ground, mother load, you just really can't beat it.
Yeah.
And the all gold is very pretty.
Mm.
The spruce with a damaged top, if it is a small tree, you can give it a new top. I mean, it happens that they lose a top, and you can keep it from getting a double top by just pruning away the soft new shoots that try to come up. But better to get one that's not damaged, especially if it's damaged down into the wood.
Yeah, and again, even with the top damage, check the roots too when you plant.
Yes, yeah. Follow up on the bunnies, because we have Shelley says that she has a row of lettuce and parsley for the rabbits, and Teresa is asking, can that work if you line the flower garden with lettuce? Does it stop them going further into? Can it act like a biological barrier?
Does a smorgasbord necessarily stop you at one point when you can keep going at a buffet?
It didn't work for us when we tried that. It does make a difference to put clover in the lawn. They like clover a lot, and so do groundhogs like clover. They aren't necessarily after the things that they like the most when they go in the gardens. They're just at things that are most readily accessible to them. So you might want to try putting clover in the lawn.
Especially if you know that they come all the way across the lawn to go to your garden, the more they can stay in their shelter. If the clover's near there, they may not come exploring except for just a quick nibble and run.
But boy, it's a biggie. We're not gonna
Yeah.
spend, we're not gonna spend too much more time on that because it is,
No.
it's a try and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just very, very quickly, Tanya's asking, is there a way to tell the difference between rabbit and deer, the damage? Who's to blame?
Yeah, rabbits, deer have an overbite. So when they bite, they leave a shred. It's generally at an angle, the bite, and there'll be a shred.
It's like a bad pruner.
Yeah,
a
like a
bad cut.
like a bad cut from a pruner. Rabbits cut very clean.
And so do groundhog.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So then we've got some pruning questions. Amy's curious, is it a good time to prune a 5-year-old Koufax dogwood?
Probably
Like Kusa, yeah, probably an autocorrect there. It flowered beautifully and it now has pods.
If what you're trying to do is train the plant, like change the shape of the plant, then it's probably better to do that pruning late winter, early spring next year. If you're trying to keep it small as well as shape it, now is a good time to do it. Usually I wait until the second half of August when the weather starts to change, and then we do our pruning to keep things small. Yeah.
The weather's been like the second part of August. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of similar question, Elizabeth says that her 9-bark is exuberant. When can I downsize it, now or wait till later in the fall?
9-barks are always exuberant.
Yes.
I usually do 9-barks in the spring, and 9-barks in trouble. I take old thick wood out from inside the plant in the spring, then I let them bloom and shorten them, shorten the branches that are there, because they're much bigger than, and that's because people put them into small spaces when they want to be a 10 by 10 plant.
Even the Diablos and the
Yeah.
you have to look for the little dwarfs. There are some, but
Yeah, it's a little bit late to do the shortening now. I try to do that right after it blooms so that you maximize the bloom for the next year. So after it blooms, then you shorten all the branches that bloomed, and then in the off season, take some wood out of it, and it's a constant roll. You just keep on going with a 9-bark unless you put it in a place where, if you can give it 10 by 10, you don't have to do anything to it. You just let them grow.
Yeah.
All right, and then our other 2 questions are about trees, replacing trees. Do we want to get into those? Where are we at on time, or do you want to move into?
Let's wait on those, and
okay,
we'll
great.
move forward into our main topic.
Okay, so Polly and Mary, we're hanging on.
Okay.